Good morning, happy Thursday. Welcome to a brand new day and a brand new episode of the Heaven and Hell podcast. I appreciate, as I say that you might not be listening to this on Thursday or in the morning, but hey, it's all good. It is Thursday morning at the time of recording, and so let's just keep it real. Today's episode is following on from the conversation that we started yesterday. So as we explored yesterday's episode and around guarding your heart, we went off on what at the time seemed like a little bit of a tangent around some of my bugbears with social media and this idea of showing up and being real. Then when I looked back through my notes, I was like, oh, that's what we're exploring today, really. This episode is called A Beautiful, Glorious Mess, because as we started to explore yesterday, the more that we can show up and simply be real and be the human beings that we were created to be. Ideally on a good day, God helping us with love and patience and kindness and all of those other fruits of the Spirit. But the more that we can do that and acknowledge our mistakes and recognize that sometimes we don't get it right, and then just muddle forward from there, the more that we give that permission slip to other people to do the same as well. And so this isn't about having an edited perfect life. Somebody once said that fiction is real life with all the boring bits taken out. I say instead, real life is acknowledging that sometimes the bits are boring. How can we find the fun in those things? Because like we've said before, not every single moment is delightful and wonderful, but there are delightful and wonderful moments in every single day. And the more that we can show up and explore that and keep our eyes open for that sense of wonder and delight, the more wonderful life can be. And that has a ripple effect. The more that you can show up full to the top with God's love and be who you were created to be in that relationship with Him, the more that the people around you will be impacted by that, sometimes in ways that you don't see. And so this is about exploring the stories, because we have to recognise that sometimes the way that we move through life, it is impacted by the stories that we've grown up with, the stories that we tell ourselves about the things that happen in day-to-day life. But you know what? We have an opportunity to rewrite the story, to retell the story. So some of you who follow along most days will have heard the story a few weeks ago about that dream that I had. And I told you that when I woke up, I then went back half asleep and I played out the rest of the dream. Now there was actually, I didn't know it at the time, but actually there was a purpose to that, because God had some other stuff to share as a result, which we explored in that episode. I'm not going to repeat myself, that would be tedious. But it was interesting to me that our natural reaction to anything when we have a dream is to want to play it out to its finality. We want to rewrite that story and give it a happy ending. But even that happy ending is based on our definition of what a happy ending looks like. But we do have this opportunity to explore the stories, and when stuff happens in a day that niggles us, we can take a step back. Like, why is this niggling me? What about this? Or as my friends in the US like to say, it's triggering me. I'm not sure if it's a US thing or a teenage thing, but this expression, oh, he really triggered me, or that situation really triggered me. It wasn't an expression that I ever heard when I was a kid, but it does seem to be triggered is this word that encapsulates that something happens and it makes us feel a bit So when something happens and makes us feel a bit we have this opportunity to step back and go, okay, why is this making me feel uncomfortable, frustrated, whatever the emotion is. It's fascinating, as an aside, it just occurs to me, we never talk about being triggered when something happens and it helps us feel joyful or delighted or happy. Maybe that would be an interesting experiment. What if the next time something happens in today and you get this overwhelming sense of, yeah, that was amazing, or just yeah? What if we paused and said, what about that situation helped me feel delighted, happy, joyful? Because actually that would work really well with the way that our minds are wired, because by focusing and analysing and what actually in that situation was really good, it will help us to see that more and to focus on it. It's that piece we talked yesterday, from Philippians, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's trustworthy, I'm paraphrasing, but think lovely thoughts. Actually, what if we started to reclaim that word triggered and started to recognise those times when we are triggered to a point of joy and happiness and delight, and take a step back? However, our natural, we could try that and we see how we get on. I've never done that before. That's your little plaything if you choose to accept it. But from the point of view of day-to-day life, when life is a bit angsty, having that opportunity to pause and go, what is it about this situation that is causing me frustration? And remember, you as a person of faith, you don't have to do this on your own. It's the IER of Yuya, intentional expectant relationship. So you don't have to sit on your own and go, let me figure this one out. Let me ponder this for myself and find out the answer. You can talk to God about it and ask him. My favourite thing is to pull out my notebook and I'll write a question and explore it that way. But I'm not saying that is the way to do it. Yuya is about you being you. I offer that as a starting point to people when they're not really sure what it looks like. Some people, they'll go for a walk and have a little chat and, God, this is really doing my head in. Help me to see this from your perspective. The more that we can do that, and then share the stories of that out loud, because it helps other people realise that those times when they're feeling less than stellar, they are not alone. Social media will have us believe that everybody else's lives are picture perfect and so delightful and wonderful. We said yesterday about how even when people have been authentic, they're choosing to show you a filtered mess. And so then you compare your mess to their filtered mess, not recognising that their mess is filtered and, oh, my mess is so much more messy. No, we're all making it up as we go along. We're all, ideally, on a good day, God helping us, following those nudges. Let's be honest and be transparent. There are times when, and I know this is definitely true for me, and see myself as like God is definitely helping me to learn and grow. But I know certainly throughout my life there have been situations where I've been very reactionary. Is that a word? I'm not even sure if that's even a word. Something happens and the immediate reaction and you feel like you have to immediately do something about it. Actually, the piece I keep hearing and the whisper I keep getting is actually, what if we take a deep breath and pause before acting? And even when we get those nudges and we feel like, God is telling me I need to really react to this. Okay, pause. Ask him, God, I feel like you're saying this thing. Is this right? Help me move forward with this with your love. There are times, of course, when we need to be reactionary. We said this before. If you're walking along the road and you see a child about to dart in front of a car, it's okay to go, hey, stop, and grab that person and stop them from running into the road. I'm not suggesting for a moment in that situation that you want to pause and think, now, God, this child looks like they're about to wander into the road. Should I do something about that? No, there are times when you do need to act instinctively and actually take that action. I've had this actually happen to me. It was a few years ago now, and I was walking around over to the local leisure centre, and I could see this situation playing out in front of me. So I'm on this side of the road, and on the other side of the road there was a house with the front door open. A car pulled up outside the front door, and the person, I assume was the mum, was chatting with the person, and this little tot sort of wandered out of the house unbeknownst to his mum, and was about to was about to wander into the road, and there was a car coming from the opposite direction. So in that situation, the wrong thing to do would be go, God, I can see this situation playing out. Should I act? No, we don't in that situation go, well, but what if I'm overreacting? What if, no, we have to act. But those are the extremes of life. I remember that occasion because it was rare. It's not often when we need to act to stop someone from getting hurt by a car or stop some really potentially tragic situation. Most of the time, our instinct to act immediately is us, and some of the stuff that's going on inside our own heads. And so the reminder today is that we do have this facility to pause. And I know that for some of us, I'm smiling because this is true for me. It might not be true for you, but it will be true for some people. Some of us have a very short space, it feels like sometimes, between their heads and their mouths. And this head where we allowed ourselves to pause, and our mouths when we need to speak. I like to think that the older I get, the bigger that gap becomes, and it does become easier to pause. But the more that we can practice this out. However, Holy Spirit was nudging me this morning and reminding me that all of this is God helping us. And this is one of my favourite verses. I have a number of favourite verses in the Bible, but this is the Message translation of verses 1 and 2 of Romans 12. So the NIV, which in the tradition I grew up with is what was preached from a lot, it says talking about offering your bodies as a living sacrifice. When we hear that kind of language, it can feel quite sort of distant almost, like we have to really work hard to apply it to our own lives. What I really love about the Message translation is when you hear it and read it, it feels more, okay, I can do that. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, this is Paul writing to the Romans. But of course, everything in the Bible, we explore it within the context of when it was written and then go, okay, God, help me apply this to my life. It says, so here's what I want you to do, God helping you. And every time I read that verse, that is always highlighted. I know the folks in my local church, when they know this is one of my favourite passages, and I always pause on that, and I always draw attention to that, except when I don't, but I often do. Because remember, this is not about willpowering your way. This is about doing this with God, intentional, expectant relationship. So here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. There's that word thinking again. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what he wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings out the best of you. Develops well-formed maturity in you. And I've read this many times, as you will have gathered, but that word, the highlight on that word thinking, we talk a lot about how, we're spirit, soul and body. We can shy away from the fact that actually our minds can have part of this loving God. The NIV translation of that talks about renewing your minds. That's a thinking process. That's doing this with God. And so the reminder today, yes, life is a bit messy. We're all making up as we go along a lot of the time. But it's a beautiful, glorious mess. And so I want to encourage you today that even when the moments in today that feel messy and might feel difficult, and you might be like, oh, this is really hard, you can acknowledge that. God knows it. You can talk to him about it and then be real with the people around you. And God helping you move through this life, all of it. Look what it said, your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work and walking around life. Doing real life, living life out loud. We don't need to show up and edit. Now that's not to say, thank you Holy Spirit, that's not to say that we should not engage our brains. We talked about that already. Yes, there is space to pause. So when I say we shouldn't self-edit, we are here to love. God helping you, you are to move through today with love. And sometimes that means pausing. Okay, God, how do I express this in a way that is kind and loving? Yeah, so we're not to edit out the messy bits, but we do have the function, because of the way that our minds are created and the relationship that we have with God, we do have the ability to pause. Okay, help me express this with love. And if we can do God helping us do all of this filtered through the lens of love, it will transform the world. And that world starts in your household, of course. People like me get really excited about, the world. But it starts at home, in your household, in your street, in your community, and then goes out from there. But that filtering it through the lens of love piece is vital. And that final reminder for today, of course, this is something that we are practicing in the Itchy Soul Playground. We've talked, I think yesterday, about how sometimes, being a grown-up can get a bit like, ugh. If you're at this point in your life where you're like, oh, you're looking around and going, okay, is this it? If you're ready to embrace what it says in Romans 12, God helping you, moving forward into today with that sense of wonder and delight and joy, I would encourage you to check out the Itchy Soul Playground. uia.com/join is where you can do that. We have our first one-day live event at the end of August, but don't wait till then. There's a community there waiting to embrace you and help you move through today with real joy so that you can thrive. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you. And I look forward to, housekeeping reminder. It's Thursday. There's no episode tomorrow. So through August, I don't know how long this will continue, but through August, we're not having a Friday episode. Quite transparently, because I'm going to be paddleboarding. Well, actually, most specifically, at 9 o'clock, I'll be probably just about getting out of the water. So we're going to, for August, I was all set to try and squeeze all of those things in. The Holy Spirit was like, no, you need to model what it looks like to do this with me. And I'm telling you, for August, not Friday. So if you do follow along with these on a day-by-day basis, we'll be back on Monday. We'll be on YouTube, and I will the plan is, God helping me, there'll be a post up on Facebook where you can get the links so you can join us live if you want to throughout next week, Monday through Thursday. So, housekeeping over. Thank you for being here, and I shall catch up with you on Monday. In the meantime, have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, and this is where I need to find the button. Found it. Thank you, Celia, for joining me live. You are a treasure and a delight. I shall catch up with you soon. I found the button now. See you soon. Bye.